Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. It's that time again, and I want you to play midweek Magic. This week's event is one of the favorites for the budget crowd out there for various reasons. This week it is Singleton, so you only need one copy of each card. I think you can see why the budget players tend to like this. But before we get into all that, let me take this opportunity to invite you to subscribe to the channel. See, back in January of this year, I set a goal of having 100 subscribers before the end of the year. And boy, have we come a long way since that time. And while I may be doing a lot of the work, I can't do it without you. You see, this isn't one of those huge YouTube channels that gains or loses 1,000 subs in a day and hardly notices. Around here, you matter. Just like all these folks here matter. See, thus far, we've got up to 81 subs out of our goal of 100. And while I know they're not all listed here, these are the folks that have answered the call and made their subscription to the channel public information. And I want to take this opportunity to not only invite you to join the community if you have not done so already, but thank all of these fine folks, because around here, my audience matters. It's what shapes the channel, it's what I drive for. And one last thing, I'd like to do something cool when we do hit that goal of 100 subscribers. Problem is, I don't really know what to do and have very few ideas. So if you have a moment and you have a thought, comment it down below on what you think we should do to celebrate our goal of 100 subscribers being reached. Now, what were we talking about? Oh, right. All right, so from a budget perspective, Singleton is a bit of a double-edged sword. It tends to be both good and bad at the same time. Well, actually, that's not quite true. It's not at the same time. It tends to be good or bad depending upon where you are in your arena Magic career. See, when you're brand new, it's really hard to put together a deck where you can't use any duplicates that's any good, because you only have about 600 cards or so on day one. So that's pretty limiting, and really out of those 600, a lot of them are going to be multicolor or very theme specific or something like that. Now, on the flip side, if you've been playing Magic and Arena for a little while and you've really built your collection beyond that new player experience, it's pretty easy to put together a Singleton deck and still have some semblance of a theme or a structure to it without having to play, well, call them what they are, bad cards. So my video today is mostly going to be focused on those new folks. We're getting ready for rotation here. We are strongly in the renewal period, and I know there's a lot of new folks out there. So today I'm going to be talking to you out there as the new players. The nice thing about Singleton is you've only got to have the one copy. And one of the easiest things to do if you are still in that new player experience mode is to build a monocolor deck that is going to be less susceptible to theme issues that aren't going to be able to be rectified this early in your career. And my personal favorite for a monocolor Singleton deck at this point, very early in the new player experience, is to go with a mono green. You see, BMG, or Big Mean Green, is so universal to green that it's frankly kind of hard to mess up. The whole idea is just to play big creatures at a faster rate than your opponent can deal with them. and green is able to do that like no other color. So first thing I'm going to do here is click on our Large and in Charge. That's our mono green new player experience deck. And I'm going to come down here and clone that deck. And then I'm going to scroll up here and look at that copy here and go ahead and open that up. And let me see here. What we want to do then is go into our deck details, and we want to set this up as a Singleton deck. And then when you look at your list here, it shows you everything that no longer qualifies as a Singleton, and you can literally just click those away from the deck. Very easy. Yes, we've got to get rid of our second copy of Gigantosaurus 2 and our second copy of Rampaging Brontodon. Now, as a general rule, when it comes to best of one, I think 23 is the right number of lands. So I'm going to go ahead and click that down to that 23 point. And as you can see, that means we need a total of 21 cards if in fact all of these are really, really good. So let's take a moment and take a look at what we get in green from our new player experience. All right, so if I have done this right, this represents every mono green card that you get in your new player experience. Although just be aware that I'm working from the previews, and I may not have all the quantities just right, and they may tweak those a little bit. But let's talk about what you get out of the collection here. First up is Blizzard Brawl. I think this is honestly the best green fight spell removal, and not just in the new player experience, but available in the format. My only quib with this is it does require us to play snow lands, and I'm not sure that the rest of the new player experience gives enough justification to run snow. Although you could certainly do it, there's very little downside, I guess, to running snow. So that's certainly an area that you could play with, and your deck may differ a little bit. Next up, we have Fortifying Drought. This is mostly a life gain and pump effect. It really is going to work better splashed into mono white life gain. I'm not sure that this is going to make the cut into our mono green Singleton. On the other hand, Snakeskin Veil as an instant with a +1/+1 counter and hexproof is a nice way for you to counter removal. Vastwood Fortification is one of two flip land cards, which will allow us ultimately to both run this card and lower our land count just a touch and have a little bit more gas in our mono green deck. Next up is Ochre Jelly. It's rare. You should probably run it. That's going to be the case of almost all the rares for the time being. Until you've done a significant amount of drafting, almost any rare card that fits your deck should probably be run. Next up, Big Play. It's a pump spell, +1/+1 counter theme. We're going to see this card quite a bit, I think, in this year. Bull Strength, similar pump spell, but gives trample, and also allows you to play both sides of the field, as it allows you to untap the target creature at instant speed. So when your opponent swings in, they now have to deal with not only a creature they weren't expecting to be part of the combat, but a larger version of that creature if you should use it on the defense. Devouring Tendrils, it's a fight spell. Fight spells are generally the best removal green gets. Generally speaking, you're going to want to run those. Emergent Sequence is a way of searching up lands, putting it into the battlefield, and in this case, turns that land into a creature, which is something we enjoy in green. Inscription of Abundance, again, it's a rare. You should probably run this, and not just because it's rare, this is probably one of the best rares that we get in green. Not far behind that is Lotus Cobra, because landfall is the thing, and this allows you to ramp. Ramp is one of those things that green likes doing because it lets you get ahead of your curve. Prosperous Innkeeper is one of the better uncommons available, not only in the new player experience, but also in the format. It ramps by creating a treasure token when it ETBs, and it gives you a nice life gain trigger for that green-white life gain deck that I'm sure is going to be very popular this year. Ranger class, this another rare. It's really very good. This is one of those cards that all this year, anytime we talk about green, the question is going to be, why shouldn't I run Ranger class? And particularly at the very beginning of your arena career, there is no good reason not to run this. Sculptor of Winter is more ramp, but only in snow. I'm kind of leaning towards not doing snow in this particular build, but if you feel differently about it, this is one of those cards you are going to want to include. And speaking of want to include, the Werewolf Pack Leader is, in my humble opinion, the best green card, not only in the new player experience, but the best green creature available for this budget year. The fact that we got a copy of it is fantastic as part of our new player experience, and this card is only going to get better with the fall rotation as Werewolf becomes a more relevant creature type. I'm really hoping to see an uncommon Werewolf Lord of some type, probably in red-green, but we'll see. Exponential Growth is a okay pump spell. The fact that its sorcery speed doesn't allow you to do it mid-combat, so you kind of telegraph what's going on, and they're going to be able to block accordingly. But hey, it's not a bad spell, and it's rare, so on the chance that you do draw it, it may very well end up winning the game, or at least securing the board position to make for a much easier win. Choose Your Weapon here as an uncommon is a nice boost spell, doubling a creature's power and toughness, or dealing 5 damage to target creature with flying. Utility like this is pretty hard to beat, particularly as a one-of in a deck like this that's so early on in your career. Lurking Roper doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you gain life, untap Lurking Roper. The fact that this is 3 damage for a blocker, unless you're running some sort of life gain, makes it a little less good, but at this point in your career, beggars can't always be choosers, so this very well may make the cut. Oran Reef Ooze, it's a rare, +1/+1 counters. We're going to see a lot of this card this year. The black-green +1/+1 counters deck is definitely something we're going to be playing quite a bit of, and I'm glad to see black as a color finally starting to step into its own as part of the new player experience, and in my opinion is in the top 3 colors for your new player experience. So pretty darn excited about that. And speaking of things to be excited about, this common here, Scale the Heights, this does everything for you. It puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature. You gain 2 life. You may play an additional land, and you draw a card. I know I keep saying this, but this is one of those cards that, at least for the foreseeable future, if you're running green, my question is, why aren't you running this card? Kazandu Mammoth is one of my favorite rares in the entire Zendikar set. It's a nice little mammoth/elephant, depending upon where you are in that argument. And it gets bigger off of landfall. It also doubles as a land, so if you get it too early on and you need the land, you can still play it. But 9 times out of 10, you are going to want to play this for the Beat Stick Mammoth. Spirit of the Aldergard. I'm sure I said that wrong for my Norse listeners out there. This is a fantastic uncommon beat stick if you happen to be running snow. If you're not, it's not that great. We might skip it this week. We'll see. Struggle for Skemfar is another fight spell. Also procs as a +1/+1 counter on a creature, and it has a foretell capability, so a very easy include. Another easy include is our boy Toski. He's legendary, he's a squirrel, he's indestructible, he can't be countered, he must attack, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, you draw a card. This is pretty darn good, guys. Really a very easy include in this particular deck. I don't know what more I could possibly say about this. It's really good. Vastwood Surge allows you to ramp. If you are able to kick it later in the game, it also procs for +1/+1 counters on creatures. Master Symmetrist. This is one of those cards I don't think is going to make the cut. The fact that it's built around that symmetry gimmick is not something I'm really interested in playing around. I've got other ways to give things trample. I've got creatures with trample. I'm just not feeling it for this particular deck, but there will be a time and a place for it. Speaking of a time and a place, you meet in a tavern. This basically lets you dig through your library, through the top 5 cards anyway, revealing creatures and putting them into your hand. So anytime you can do a draw spell like that is pretty good. Its other ability, creatures you control get +2/+2, really allows you to alpha strike and hopefully win the game. It is sorcery speed, so you kind of have to telegraph that and leave yourself open for your opponent to maybe remove some creatures in response. But hey, that's going to happen any way you look at it. Next up, we've got our Mythic Green Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. This guy, it just gets sick big based on the number of lands that you have in play. By the time you can play this or are likely to have drawn it, this is potentially something like a 7/7. In my opinion, it's really only good in mono green because it only triggers off of forests, but hey, it's pretty darn good in that case. Speaking of good, Froghemoth. This may very well be my personally favorite rare in the set. 4/4 Trample Haste is pretty darn good. I'm not even going to get into the paragraph that goes along with it, but it only gets better from there, guys. Owlbear, on the other hand, a 5-mana 4/4 with Trample. The upside on this is it does allow you to draw a card when it ETBs, which is something that green has a hard time doing. So it will probably make the cut today, but this is one of those commons that will not always make the cut in your deck. Rootless Yew. When it dies, you search up a creature of power or toughness 6 or greater, reveal it, and put it to your hand, then shuffle. So in essence, this is a little bit of a tutor in the fact that it replaces itself. Most of the creatures here in our new player experience are not going to meet that 6 power toughness requirement, although we do have the Bookworm, a 7/7 trample. When it ETBs, you gain life and draw a card, so it fits nicely and addresses some of the shortcomings of green very nicely, although 8 mana is hard even for green. So with all that in mind, I'm going to take a moment and put some of these into our deck and see where that takes us. Alright, so to catch you up, I have added in those cards that we talked about. I don't think there's any real surprises here based on the conversations that we had. Some of the other things that I did do is I cut our forest back down to 21. Because again, we have that mammoth as well as the fortification that gives us access to another land. That and the amount of ramp that is generally available in green, I think gives us a pretty strong case to run just the 23 lands, including the modal double face cards, adding us up to the 23. I have renamed the deck to Singleton Green. Those of you that were paying attention earlier probably saw that I filmed some of this out of order, and I'm having to go back and refilm some things, so you probably saw that in my deck lists. And as you can see, I have a total of 63 cards. For statistical reasons, I want to get that down to 60. There's a reason there's a minimum hand size in traditional Magic and no maximum hand size. The only reason there's a maximum hand size on Arena is because of digital overflow issues. But in traditional paper Magic, if you want to run a 1,000 card deck, the only stipulation is that you have to be able to shuffle it by hand unassisted. So that's pretty much no limit. But we do need to cut these 3 cards. So let's start with some of our upper ends here. Epic Proportions being a 6 mana enchantment with flash, giving a creature +5/+5 and trample. This is what I refer to as a win more card. By the time you're in a position to cast this, you should already be in a position to win the game with or without this card. So it's just not going to make the cut here. Another of our rares from our mono green new player experience. Let me see here. Why am I not seeing this? Alright, now that I'm done being blind, the card I was looking for was a World Shaper. This just doesn't fit with the big mean green aspect. It's a good card, it's just not in the right place here, so not going to make the cut. Last but not least, also from our mono green new player experience, is the Baloth Pack Hunter, a 3/3 with trample for 4. The upside on this card is when it ETBs, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each other creature you control named Baloth Pack Hunter. But as you guessed, in a Singleton, this just isn't going to make the cut. So it's out. So there you have it. Our mono green Singleton, big mean green. I hope this deck works very well for you. I hope you enjoy it. And I will see you again soon.
Wait, what's that? You didn't catch all that? Well, Matt wants you to know the links are in the doobly-doo. And of course, an event like Midweek Magic is all about those 2 free, rare, possibly upgraded ICRs. There is no cost to playing other than your time, and this is an event that you should definitely be getting involved with every single week. And while I'm not a particular chaser of cosmetic items, when you do take part in this event, if you have the option, link up with your local game store and get a redemption code for 2 free cosmetic upgrades for your collection. Not real cards, but cosmetics can be fun. And of course, if you are a player of physical Magic, be sure to partner up with your friendly local game store whenever possible, because as far as I know, Walmart, Target, and Amazon does not provide space and community for Magic players. And with all that having been said, please take this opportunity to like, comment, and subscribe. It is the budget way to support this budget channel because it doesn't cost you a thing. Do it for Graham. Do it for the algorithm. Do it for the iced coffee. And until next time, I'll see you in the arena.